The recent news coming out is showing you that Swift is teaming up with JP Morgan, Visa, and others trying to push this narrative of a checkmate in the world of payments. How is this going to impact Ripple as a business and XRP as a ledger? We will discuss through that, but at the same time, we need to keep an eye on what is coming in next 12 and a half hours. We're going to actually see the CPI coming out for US, and that can create a lot of volatility in this market. So yes, that will be taken into the account, and then we will be going through this particular stuff. Okay, Swift is teaming up with JP Morgan and Visa. Fine. What is the payment platform which they are talking about? What's the payment asset which they are talking about? We need to look at that in particular and then ask that question like, okay, is this interoperable across the globe? Because that's what finally matters. It's not just being, you having that presence in the US or Northern American region. It's about the world, and right now the world is shifting towards the demographics, because if you have debt and you don't have the population to pay tax for the future, it's not going to work well. So right now, yes, there's a lot happening. And on the side of XRP, the price, it's not really interesting. There is some negative stuff happening on the short term. But you do see fundamentals changing and evolving and increasingly becoming bullish. So Ripple is winning and investors are noticing that. So everything happening with respect to the SEC case is now positive. Just we don't have the final result. So until that time, it's kind of that buy the rumor and sell the news. We don't know what the news will be, but we're sure that it's going to get solved for XRP. Great. But the price action, is something different when you are looking at on a daily, and then when you are looking on a 4-hour, you see some bearishness. If we are breaking this trend line, now we are talking about a 10 to 12% drop in the price. So how long we are going to drop? Are we going to hold that level, or we have a higher probability that we will drop further? That's what we are going to look at inside this video and discuss further. This is the scientific investor family, where the normal common retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of the world. Price action right now does show you some weakness, and on this time frame you can actually argue that there is a possibility that the price can actually do a ABC pattern to the downside, where your momentum will definitely shift further down. But what is more important is to take a step back and see if that is going to actually kill this bullish narrative which we got over last couple of months. Because it took so long to actually gather that momentum and break higher. If we are coming back to that 0.3 territory, now that's wiped out. So what we are looking at is, say, this particular level of support holding on the RSI, and still the price can come lower. Why? Last time we discussed about a possibility where XRP can potentially show you a double top. So if the price is dropping and it is slowing down close to 0.42, it is having a higher odds at that point. But unless you break below this, it is not confirmed. Now, if it breaks down, that may not be the good thing which we all want. Now, that's on a 12-hour scenario. When we actually move on to different areas of this, especially on a daily, we are now flirting with that level of the 20 moving average, where we really want to actually see a bounce in the price, because that will allow to get some momentum. But yes, the strength is reducing. Look at the RSI. Look at the MACD. The volume and the cross does not actually look that positive. So we may need to compare this with what Bitcoin is doing in the market. Then the pair of XRP BTC. So as we actually look at this, it's going to be a little bit interesting. Say, for example, this is BTC. It already broke to the downside of the short-term trend line. So if we are following XRP for that matter, we have not done that. We are still slowly holding on to the range of momentum which we built in, And this is still positive because at a time when Bitcoin dropped below that level, in the RSI 2, it actually dropped. Now it is trying to retest this level. So if the retest fails, you're going to go lower. That is going to be a pain. But what we want to see is that tomorrow when the CPI comes in, it is a good number, 9.1, 8.5, 8.3, and the next one possibly lower. And that literally can push the markets higher. But now when you actually look at the macro scenario of Bitcoin, yes, you are inside this range where you were coming from the top and the momentum is still to the downside. Now we are just trying to make a bottoming pattern to go back up. So if that decision and the data coming out of the market tomorrow helps to push the market up, things change. Now, things change for good. Now, what we are going to look at is XRP BTC and then go on to the fundamental side of things to see the fundamental factors suggesting what you may do inside this market and what you should not do. And there's a lot of different things happening. So now on a 3-day chart, it is still showing you that it has that issue where the candle, 3-day candle closed below the 50%. So it kind of erased 50% or more of last candle's bullishness. That does not actually constitute towards a highly bullish narrative on the short-term scenario. Whereas you definitely will look at this and say, okay, we need to see this one breaking higher. Say for that matter, if you actually go in, look at different fundamental factors, you will see, like, say, for example, dollar. If you're looking at the dollar index on a weekly, if you remember, we've actually checked about this on different zones. So when you are looking at dollar and then asking this question to yourself, like, okay, we actually have been looking at dollar and we noticed that we had the trend line, right? The RSI trend line was like this. The price actually came down and RSI actually did show you there is a possibility you are going to get rejected and go down. But what happened? It just went up. That's the macro news narrative and the Fed doing all this stuff. It is happening. But what is more interesting right now to see is that you had a long wick to the downside. Then the price is still staying up. What we really want to observe there on a daily is that you are going to make a lower high. We've again discussed about the scenario evolving. So if you get this here, I would actually say, like, okay, that scenario playing out in a macro will actually push the price to the downside. Now, that's not the neatest drawing which you can get, but you get the point. Here on the XRP BTC, the same narrative playing out will be bullish for XRP. That being said, the trend line which we should be noting right now is kind of like this. Now, you can actually go closer saying this was kind of an anomaly, but, just to be safe, we follow this. So you still have some room inside this pattern to fluctuate and come lower. Now, and we may not actually see sensible thing, the common sense really working. So you may have to think like an irrational guy before you jump in. Now, why am I saying that? Because right now, when you see Fed is super hawkish, saying, okay, interest rates can go sky high, what we really have to look at in this perspective is like, okay, last time, before they started hiking the rates, different central banks, believe me, different central banks, I've been talking to multiple people, and they were like, okay, I actually went on to take this mortgage because the central bankers were saying, we are not going to see hiking cycle anywhere near. And then they started boom, boom, boom. It all went up, right? They all did something which they told they wouldn't do. Same scenario here. Now they are saying, okay, we think that the interest rate is going to continue higher. But what if there is a pivot? The UN is shouting, the IMF is shouting, the EU, every other central bank is shouting. So right now, we also recently saw in the crypto Twitter, like, the central bank swap lines to Sweden was actually increasing. So the money flow and the overnight requirement for dollar is increasing. Why is that happening? And this kind of scenario is happening after a very long time, after the great financial crisis, the GFC. Right now, we will be looking at the KFC scenario here because it's going to be entertainment, not GFC. But anyway, now, Grayscale is actually trying to go against SEC. And I'm like, okay, when Ripple was trying to go against the SEC, or they are doing that, people, the way, guys, with their point of view, we're not concerned with the facts. But right now, when it is pointing towards their product, they feel the heat. Now, this is actually good because now all of these guys are waking up, understanding that, okay, Ripple is doing something really good for the entire market. Now, jumping on the Swift side of this, they are actually highlighting like, okay, they are going to be on that front page for payments. So the CBDC era is here, and they are kind of giving you that narrative. Cross-border payments on the blockchain and the CBDC narrative, they are here and they won't give up. Fine. So you go onto this particular article, try to read through that, and you're like, okay, they're actually using JP Morgan's link as a network which is specially designed for the cross-border remittance using a payment initiative known as Onyx. So now you're actually going to look at what Onyx website looks like and what they are talking about. Even though they talk about a multi-asset blockchain network and a platform that can enable exchange of value for different type of digital assets, this kind of intrigued me, like, okay, different type of digital assets. JPM coin is actually based on the dollar. So if you are transferring within dollar, it doesn't make sense to use this vehicle, unless your domestic payments are bullshit. So if this is that scenario, now we are going to look at like, okay, what is the speed to the market? And they're talking about, real time, fast, all those stuff which we have listened from Ripple, the company, saying that, okay, they are going to do this. Now, when they talk about this, they also highlight here, tap into an established network processing billions of dollars in high value transaction on a blockchain based network for multi-asset. Fine, multi-assets. And I'm actually trying to see who all are the network participants. And I'm like, okay, this does not actually look great to, as an info. At least it does not actually look like that. Then I go onto the coin system to see what they actually mean by different assets, the different coins. And all they talk about is the JPM coin, which is the permission system for JP Morgan, which they, tried initially and then made as a link. And right now they are using for that. So when you come on here, the coin system can help enable corporate client to make programmable real-time, payments in different currencies using a multi-bank shared ledgers. And that's where I'm like, okay, this one is not going to work. For sure, this one is not going to work. Imagine you are a US-based bank and you're going to share a ledger with a Chinese bank, a Russian bank, an Iranian bank, a North Korean bank. I'm like, you may not actually go for a centralized stuff. If they don't want to operate in dollar, that's for a reason. They don't want to be controlled by a bully in the so-called, if you allow. That's the narrative. So if they are moving on and they want to be on a platform, all different CBDCs running on the same platform, for me, it does not make any sense to be on such a centralized network. It does not actually make sense. There are better technology, better networks giving you the decentralized ability to do stuff way better than this. So most likely you will actually see that going in. And that's one of the reasons why when we talk about these, like, okay, now this, if you have watched this, I'm like, okay, this guy is like, he's still taking the payments, and he is highlighting here in this talk that he have actually talked to last 9 SEC head, and what he understood is like they don't actually have the resources, they don't actually have the ability, they are always overrun. And at the end, he highlights something which I felt really interesting, because the way he actually highlighted that, for me, it feels literally like, okay, they really know big companies are going to challenge them in the court. Some of them can win. And the way Ripple is challenging them, and remember, the court just ordered them to give that document from the speech 6 times, and they did not. So they are hiding something for damn sure. If it's me looking at that and asking the same, okay, I've actually seen a tweet and I have retweeted this from Xrp where he actually gives you that narrative. They are hiding something for sure, and this is from a world-class CEO of a billion-dollar company, now $10 billion company. So when you look at this, and the world is now focusing on that, yes, the understanding of this asset is going to move us there. Whether we all agree or not, I'm actually searching for one tweet which I actually saw. Yeah, Ripple is winning, and investors are looking at that. It is that narrative where people come in and buy and move this asset. Now, it can be for investment perspective, it cannot be. In some areas, it can be like the iRemit, the TabJet, and others who are using this technology for use case, the utility perspective. They're just using it in and out 3 seconds, so it's not pushing the price up. But it does reduce the supply a teeny tiny bit. So right now, we have a narrative of 100 billion supply in which this much is screwed. And if you remember what the Dilip Rao actually gave us, it's like, okay, they envision institutions holding that escrowed amount. So right now, don't even think about that supply coming into the market unless it is directly going on to the institutional stuff. So it's not going to come into the market as a circulating supply. So consider the current supply is 50, great, that's going to be your total supply, unless institutions decide to dump this. And I don't think they will do that because of its utility. So the price is going to be the function of the demand in that side and those who don't want to even touch the asset. And whenever it is lower, the price is lower, they will like to buy more. Now, are you looking at the general market and saying this is going to go sky high? Right now, we don't think so. The macro is actually bad. And when you are looking at the market right now and saying like, okay, some of these coins are slowly grinding higher. We had our calls. They are doing fine. Some of them are holding. That's actually impressive to use different parameters and understand like, okay, these coins will stand out from others. And that some of them or most of them are working. And we are really happy on that point. And if you are looking for that kind of stuff, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. Now, you have a weekly asset sheet where you get to know which asset is going to be like, stay away. Which asset is going to be like, okay, that's an opportunity, right? These kind of scenarios. Now, why is that important? Because you see a mixed market here, a totally highly fundamental asset, even though everything is positive, it is slowing down. Now, technically speaking, there are people taking profits. There are sellers entering into the market. All these stuffs are evolving. But remember, this month has like just started. You still have 20 days more to go. And inside that, you are looking at the price action still holding on to the bullish sentiment which it created in the last month. So what is important for us here is we should not come below this range. Anyway, here, it's completely fine. It's actually really good. Because the way you look at this is like last time when you started the move up, you had one candle which started that bullish narrative. Change of momentum. And then the next candle kind of slowed down. And 2 candles after that on a monthly corrected lower without, I repeat, without erasing the gains made after this level, right? So that's what we're talking about here. We don't want it to erase this level of gain. So up to 4.2, it will actually be really great. Then here, it's like 2 months of movement left to get erased. Whereas here, it's like 1, 2. If you are looking at this positively, 1, 2, 3, 4 months, we have kept that. So in the same scenario, 3 months of volatility being saved in the market is going to be great. Now that's on a monthly. This is what you get as you zoom out and you look at the price action and see this is a macro pattern which we are observing, which is going to be super bullish. So guys, that being said, if you received value for your time, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. And I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.